How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel. KG is back. It is time for a brand new video, and we're going to be discussing Karl Darlow versus Perri and who should keep the goalkeeper jersey ahead of the game against Bournemouth if both keepers are declared fit. I'm going to give my answer and give my reasons why in the video. Please drop your comments down below of who you would choose and why. That's always interesting for me to know. Keep liking the content as well. It's free to do, helps out the channel immensely, especially in this new era of YouTube where the algorithm seems to change every week, but likes are always a way of keeping the content visible. So please continue to do that. Mr. P, Herman Cohen, and Ringo, thank you for the super thanks on the last video. Keep the support coming, guys. It all means a lot, and it very much appreciated in towards running the channel. So, people, before we get into the goalkeeper debate, though, shall we say, goalkeeper conversation, I just thought I'd bring this up because this is stunning for me. And shout out to Anton, who is in the Premier League team of the week, if you like that kind of stuff. So well done to Anton. But here's something here. Leeds had not scored a direct free kick in the Premier League since Rafinha's effort against Leicester in November 2021. I'd believe that, no problem. But this is the kicker. Indeed, the last time Leeds netted a direct free kick away from home in the top flight was back in May 2003 when Ian Hart scored against Arsenal at Highbury. Oh, my Lord. I knew it had been a long time, and maybe it's because I wasn't, dividing the home and away free kicks or whatever it may be, because I knew Rafinha had scored one. But wow, that is staggering, isn't it? At least Anton Stacker's put that one away. That's 22 years, people. That's a long time. I know we've been out of the Premier League a while, but we was back in for 2 years and we didn't get one direct free kick in. But listen, we've solved that one. And look, it was a good away win. And I just want to say as well, before we get into the conversation of the two goalkeepers, every point is going to be precious. And the conversation right now is all three promoted teams are doing really well. Obviously, there are only 5 game weeks gone, so it's a very, very small sample size in comparison to what the Premier League will be, especially when we get into the hard stretches of the season, when all the international breaks are gone. But you've got to celebrate every point you get when you're a team like Leeds United looking to survive. And in the comments as well, I'm not going to call anybody out, but there was literally people in the preview saying, well, we've got to beat Wolves, because if we're not beating Wolves, then who are we going to beat? But then in the match reaction or in the cool down, they're saying, it's only Wolves. They're terrible. Anyone can beat them. It's like, well, that means you just can't win either way. It sounds like you're trying to be proven right rather than hoping to be proven wrong. And for me, every point is precious at this level. That's why the Fulham, last minute defeat was so gutting, because that would have been such a good point away. But now we've got 3 points. Maybe that now carries momentum ahead of Bournemouth or Spurs. You know what I mean? Every positive performance has got to be highlighted with what we've got and the way that we're utilizing the tools that we have. So, I'm always going to be fair. If the performance isn't good, or if there are red flags, and there were a couple, we discussed them in the match reaction against Wolves, there were up to certain points. But when you come away with a 3-1 win and you confine one of our relegation rivals to staying on 0 points, it's a good thing. Now we move on to Bournemouth, and we can hope that, like with Okafor here, I'm not sure if it was Okafor or his agent was talking to Fabrizio, but Okafor saying, with Danny Farke gives me this feeling to get my confidence back, and Fabrizio saying Leeds United very happy with the investment made. We'll pump the brakes on things like that because we want to see it consistently. We already heard about Metcha when he scored the penalty. That's his fee paid back already. No, we need to see some consistency, and that's what we're looking for going forward. But yeah, people, celebrate the wins when we get them. You know what I mean? If we're in the 2nd, 3rd year and we're looking to build up and, head into Europe and everything else like that, cool. But we are not that. And also, we will be that team at some point this season where a team has probably lost 3 in a row. They play Leeds, maybe they win, and people will be saying, it was only Leeds. So got to be humble. Stay humble, as Danny Farke said, and he's right. But listen, getting into the goalkeeper conversation, Karl Darlow, who's picked up the fort in the last 2 league games. A lot of you are saying that he should remain in goal even if Perri is declared fit. And Perri, by the way, there was nothing wrong with his performances before in terms of the league position. In fact, he was very crucial against Newcastle in helping us keep that clean sheet at home at Ellen Road. So it's a good conversation to have, because what we're doing at this point in time is, it's not like last season where we're like, please get Melier out of there. Please do it now before we slip out the top 2. We've actually got a situation right now where we've got 2 goalkeepers that have been very reliable, especially in the system we're playing in. And just for full fairness, we've played 6 games so far. and they've both each had one where I bet they would have him back. To Karl Darlow against Sheffield Wednesday, there was trepidation when he was supposed to come in, by the way, because of that performance. Redeems himself against Fulham, and also Lucas Perry against Arsenal, where you're thinking, maybe he could have had a couple of those. But if you're going to be fair, everybody in that Arsenal game stunk. So it wasn't just Lucas alone, but yeah, he didn't cover himself in glory. But then he comes back with a real strong performance against Newcastle. And the thing for me now in this discussion is, do you put back in the guy that you've brought in to be your number one, or do you stay with the hot hand, which at the moment is Karl Darlow? And it's a really interesting one, because I've said it already about an outfield player in terms of Strauch. I don't know how you break up that defensive unit unless there's injuries, and please, hopefully there's nothing with Bogle. We'll get to that later this week. Hopefully we get a positive update on that. But you don't move him out just because Biol's there at this point in time, because Strauch, Roden, Goodmanson, who's also been getting a lot of plaudits, rightfully so this week as well, by the way, and Bogle are operating as such a good unit. Why would you take anybody out? Goalkeeper might be slightly different for me, because I look at it a little bit like when Metra scored the penalty against Everton. I was not putting Metra in my starting lineup for the next game against Arsenal. No, I didn't have him in the starting lineup. It's a different kind of thing. And I still think, with the understanding with Perri, it was showing, there was positive signs there, especially against Newcastle, but he's been out with an injury. Now, if he's only just fit, then of course, against Bournemouth, I would say keep Karl Darlow in. But if he is fully fit and ready to go, me personally, I'm putting in Perri back in. And again, it's nothing against Darlow, but I'm also looking at the long term of it. And I just don't see Darlow being the long-term goalkeeper over the rest of the season. And Perri, by the way, being happy as backup. Now, it's always what's best for the team. Of course it is. But Perri didn't really put a foot wrong after the Arsenal game, in terms of the Newcastle game. In fact, he made a couple of really crucial saves. So it's not like he came back and he was still dodgy. I know people talk about his distribution, but that is more of a coaching thing, where Danny Farker did say that he would have to speak, to Perri about maybe some of the goals he conceded against Arsenal, and also the distribution thing. So that's more of a thing of, please don't lob it long to Nonto or James, because it doesn't make sense. But that's on the coaching to just tell him to distribute differently, and that's easily solved. But we've seen with him, I feel very comfortable with, at this point in time, either goalkeeper. But I'm just saying, the narrative, when you compare it to before the Fulham game, people were very nervous about Darlow coming in because of the performance against Sheffield Wednesday. So it's just interesting how things can change. And obviously, the information changes, opinion can change, and that is fine. But I'm saying, I'm looking at it long term, and I do see Lucas Perri being the number one overall for the season. But what you do then is, Lucas Perri, if you do start to not perform, or if the defense look like they don't trust you as much, which we haven't really seen, in all fairness, then you can say, well, Karl, you're back in, and you can probably put him back in with confidence. I just think it's one of those things where, if you're going to put Karl Darlow as your number one, I don't know if Lucas Perri signed up to be Leeds United number two, leaving Leon. But of course, performances dictate things. But for me, I'm choosing Lucas Perri as number one. But if he's not fully fit this week, I'm not nervous about Darlow in against Bournemouth this week. But that's my opinion. So I'm very interested to hear from you guys. Who would you put in? If both keepers are absolutely fit, who's going to be your number one this weekend? Would it be Darlow? Would it be Lucas Perri? Let me know in the comments, people. And yeah, listen, just going on the theme of promoted clubs doing well. Sunderland yesterday as well, getting that point after having a player sent off. They're up to seventh, just 1 point better off than us. But it just shows that this season the promoted teams are doing so many things right. Even Burnley are at the bottom three. Listen, I'd love it for all three to survive, just to give the Premier League a bit of a different look, and just to show that it can be possible to do it. But yeah, it's going to take there's a long way to go, people, and I'm not getting too high. But yeah, like I said earlier in the video, just enjoy the little victories. We just enjoy the points when we get them. Otherwise, what's the point in being here? Because if we lose that game against Wolves, the same people that saying it's only Wolves will be saying, this team's rubbish, we're never going to do anything. You've got to, just enjoy the little victories when we can. You know what I mean? But that's it from me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the videos as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.